I'm so excited to have Tobruk Blaine here with us on the Player Development Pod. TB as I know her, TB as most people know her. TB, thank you for being here. I'm excited to have you on. I'll tell you, I saw your work back when I was at University of Houston. I want to say maybe 16 or 17. And, player development when you started, when we started, wasn't too as big as it is now. A lot of people and, there's a lot of stuff going on, collaborations, things like that. So I'm just searching. And then I see, what you're doing with Beyond Football. And then next thing I see is like the walk that you all had for, awareness. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the walk in hills and like, I'm just like, wow. And I just found out and then we finally connected and just been incredible to meet you and know the awesome professional you are. TB, if you could tell us about yourself and just let the people know who you are.
Well, thanks, Ed, for having me on this. I'm really excited for you and this new journey of yours. Yes, we met a while back. I actually started this role in 2017, so that would have made sense kind of when you were at Houston. But just super excited to be here and share my journey and inspire the next generation of player development coordinators or, student athlete development coordinators. But I'm born and raised in Boise, Idaho. I grew up a Boise State Broncos fan. My dad to this day still has season tickets to both basketball and football. I have two older brothers who played lots of sports. But I always gravitated towards cheerleading for whatever reason. I was like that 4-year-old on the steps at the basketball arena, watching the cheerleaders. Couldn't tell you what happened at the game, but I knew exactly what the cheerleaders were doing. I've always had kind of a loud personality and loud volume wise as well. So it just made sense as I got older to get into cheerleading. And although I did play some other sports, like fun fact, I was a golfer in high school. I played golf since I was 6 years old and was on my high school golf team. But anyway, went on to college, did cheerleading, and went into the education space. After being a high school educator and coach for about 10 years, I had an opportunity to kind of live out a dream, which was to run the cheerleading and dance and mascot program at Boise State University. So as you can imagine, that was something that I couldn't say no to. So I took over that program and sort of revitalized it and rebuilt. A strong foundation had been set by a woman that had been there for a long time, but I had an opportunity to build that. And that's when I really started to acknowledge and see what collegiate athletics could offer me in the space of education and coaching. And right about that time, which was in like 2013, we were seeing shows like what would Last Chance U come out, and we were seeing more and more, programs come forward with this idea and concept of how do we support athletes outside of their sport. And I had an athletics director at the time, Mark Coyle, who is shout out to Mark Coyle at Minnesota. He sort of put a bug in my ear of like, maybe there's something more for you in this space than coaching. And so from there, kind of long story short, I ended up meeting our head football coach here at San Jose State when Boise State and San Jose State played in a bowl game. And he was at Oregon State, not San Jose State, I'm sorry. Boise State and Oregon State played in a bowl game, and I'm an Oregon State alum. So I kind of met some people, and then that's when I met him, and fast forward to 4 years later, he gets the head coaching job at San Jose State. So that was sort of my journey of getting here. And it's been a unique one for sure. I know it's definitely not a lot. When you hear about people's journeys to getting here, it's very different than probably what everybody else has gone through. Yeah.
Right. No, it's, I think it's so cool when, one thing I enjoy is letting everybody know the journey, because I think, you could attest to this too. When we came out of school, or this wasn't like a plan, like I didn't come out thinking I want to be a director of player development, where college students are hitting me up, or I know they're hitting you or flooding your inboxes. Like, what do I need to do to work in student athlete development or player development? This wasn't, we both kind of like, we're passionate about people, and it both kind of happened. So I always love for our listeners to hear how to get in those roles, because I think a lot of people can see it as A, B, and it's like, it's kind of all these different alphabets, and then you get there. If you could talk about your transition, you transitioned recently from the player development position to taking Beyond Football to Beyond Sparta and having more responsibilities at San Jose State. Could you talk about that and what your responsibilities look like throughout the day?
So yeah, in 2017, Coach Brennan had just started as the head coach. It was his first coaching gig. He came to the Bay Area, which is actually where he's from. He grew up here. And there was zero programming happening at San Jose State. There was no director of player development position. There actually wasn't even like a student athlete development position. The only real student athlete development space was through SAC. And so for those of you that may not know what SAC is, if you want to get into this position, you need to know what SAC is. But I always say it's kind of like student council from high school, but in sports, like in your school. So he brought me in to say, this is an incredible location where we live in San Jose, the Bay Area, what people reference as the Silicon Valley. And so we should be leveraging that and preparing our athletes for life after sports, because the opportunity here is unmatched, in many, many other places. So when I came in 2017, I had the opportunity to build the program from the ground up.
Let's go.
That education component, being a teacher for 10 years, writing curriculums, implementing, collecting data, and then the coaching side, like the hybrid was just perfect for me. It was a perfect match. And so because over my time, this will be, next month will be 5 years. In my 4 years of doing the Beyond Football work as the director of player development, technically my title was never director of player development. It was the, director of Beyond Football. But I was doing player development work, and lots of people started to take notice. Campus leadership, community leaders, and of course our athletics department. And we had a donor come forward and say, we want this to be for all of our student athletes. So I was able to leverage the work that I had done to position myself to say, if you want this work to be done for the 470 student athletes that we support, I'm going to go from 120 to 470, then this is what is going to need to happen. And if I'm being honest, it took me a full year of actually convincing people that if they did it my way, it would be the right way. And so yeah, Beyond Football transitioned into Beyond Sparta. I am now technically the assistant athletics director for student athlete development, a title that I wanted, a title I asked for, and a position description that I helped create. And
you deserve, you earned it.
Yeah, I earned it.
Come on, assistant AD.
And then I still do the player development piece for football. So we didn't hire somebody to take over what I did. What we did is we hired somebody to be my coordinator, and their job is to ensure that the programming we were doing for football and are doing for football is being reciprocated to our female athletes. Technically, everyone in our athletics department has access to me and my coordinator, but we are doing some direct efforts of engagement with our female athletes, and I'm still maintaining the engagement pieces that I was doing with our football team.
Gotcha. Awesome. I think that's something, for people to listen to. I think, and this, you'll have people that may be in another role in sports, or a student who are just so locked in on it has to be this. And it's just great to show that not only were you able to do the work, but you touched on something that I've been trying to get, you got a donor involved because of the work you were doing, and then from there you get assistant AD, and you get opportunity for somebody else to have a position in that. And so that's an encouragement to anybody in that role, in this role, continue to work. Anybody that wants to get into it, it shows how when you get in the role, you can make it grow and provide opportunities for others. All right. So, what does your day look like? I mean, you probably got that question a lot from students. The only reason I put it on here is because I want people to understand it is not a so I would love to hear what your day looks like and how is that transition to helping all student athletes?
Well, in the last 3.5 years of my life, I've had 2 kids. So I have a 3.5-year-old and a 1.5-year-old. So what my day-to-day looked like when I first started is very different than what it looks like now. But I, of course, want to acknowledge and shout out any of those working parents that are balancing both, because it is working in sports is a crazy schedule, and balancing both is very hard. So my day starts with getting my kids out the door and out to school, and then I get to the office. Luckily, I have a pretty laid back kind of boss and expectations, so I get here around 8:30 in the morning. And currently, right now, we've got a lot of teams lifting. My office is about I don't know, 100 steps to the weight room. So I usually make my rounds. I let the athletes see me. I, check my email, things like that. Because I moved into the assistant AD role, I am involved in some upper level meetings now that I wasn't involved in before. So, I have certain set meetings that I'm going to. And then a lot of my work is kind of the organization of what's coming next, the planning and the outreach of programming that will be implemented for whatever is coming next. The crazy thing about what we do is we are not only the ideation people, but we're also the implementers. So we're the practitioners doing the work as well. A lot of times in like corporate America, or even sometimes across campus, you might see people that are like the ideation areas, and then they have like people that work for them that help like implement. We are doing all of that. So, and the other thing to think about is you have to work around the athlete's schedule. The most impactful time for me is being here when the athletes are here. So that could be at 7 a.m. That could be at 8 o'clock at night. So ensuring that depending on what's happening, that I'm, going to those events. For example, our football team has a team dinner tonight at 5:30. So I will be going to pick up my kids, and then I'll be going to that team dinner tonight. Last Thursday we had a community event. So again, pick up my kids, get my kids situated, get the wagon rolling, and then I bring my kids with me to that community event. And so there is no set day to day. It's just do not get your heart set on like having the same thing. You want to be wherever the athletes are. That's number one.
Yes. Appreciate you saying that. I had I think you're familiar with Lauren Hawkins. I had her sit in, we had another assistant that wanted to be with us at Kansas. So I had her sit in for interviews so she could get interview experience. And the young lady was like, can I said, what would you need to have success? She was like, I need a hourly schedule for the week of everything that's going to happen. And I literally was like, hey, I know I just bust out laughing, and no disrespect to you, but I don't even get that. And it's like, so it's day by day. What is the biggest thing that you've learned in the role?
The biggest thing I've learned in this role, and I kind of learned it after the fact, so if you're hearing this, like this is a good starting point, is the concept of backwards design. I've felt a little insecure a little bit and I guess I could say imposter syndrome working in higher education. And there's a lot of people on campus that will ask, what is the foundations of, the driving principles, what research supports your work? And my research is doing the work. I don't necessarily read a bunch of like research articles that makes me determine what direction I'm going. So when I say backwards design, I say just start doing. Just start implementing and see what went good and what didn't go good. Ensure that what you do implement, you do at the highest level possible. Because once you get athletes to an event, and you capture them, you want them to feel really good about what you've done, because you don't get a ton of time to do events. So you want them to feel good about it, but you can tweak it, you can change it, you can realize this needs to be fixed. You can, kind of passively collect data. Hey, what did you think about this event? Did you enjoy yourself? What would you have done differently? That kind of thing. And then from there, you can build it. And that's now where I am and heading into ending year 5, heading into year 6. About a year ago, I built my framework. This is what we do. This is what we do really well. This is a time of year that we do it. And so now, it's taken me that much time to have these foundations to say, this is what we do, and having justification on why we do it. That data collection piece can come.
Nice. Yeah. You, one thing I've always admired of you is the work that you've done. You've done a lot of work. It's very impactful. It's very intentional. But you're one of a handful of directors of player development, student athlete development, people who have been in that role, who just develop athletes overall, who I understand has the support of the head coach. I know when you were in football, you have the support of head coach. And I tell people all the time, if you want to see a successful, let me say it like this. I tell people all the time, if there is a successful player development program, or let me say it like this, behind every successful player development program is the support of the head coach. If you could talk about that and just the support that you've been granted, because, everybody doesn't share that. We all have our different experiences, and, we have, you know, on recruiting trips, you'll hear, I've heard it around the country, like coaches say, hey, we're going to develop you on and off the field. And then they get there and it's like, well, where's the support? Talk about how that support helped you and how it not only helps you in the moment, but helps you just be innovative, to just grow.
It's a great question. And if I say this often, if I didn't have the support that I have from leadership, I would not do this job. It would be impossible. I love the students and I love the work that I do, but I could not have the success that I'm having without that, head coach support. Now, I'm in a unique situation because ultimately it was our head football coach is the reason why this program exists. It was his idea. And what he wanted to do with that idea in the Bay Area particularly was like, this is what I need. Now you go and have the autonomy to build it. So that's something that for me, if I was going to interview to take a job somewhere else, that would be like the number one thing. I'm not going to work for somebody that isn't bought in to what I'm doing. And it's a fine line because there's coaches that will act like it's their priority because it looks good for them on a level of recruiting. It looks good for them on, a website and social media. But what are they doing and what are they willing to bend on so that we can make this a priority, if you will? So those are things that, like, for example, fall camp. For fall camp, throughout all of fall camp, I have a one-on-one meeting with every player. 120 players, I meet with them one-on-one for 15 minutes. And I have the support of my head coach to say, you can build that in around our scheduling. So those athletes would technically have a break to go home, take a nap, get treatment, whatever. But all the head coaches or all the head coach and then all the assistant coaches, like, you have to go see TB. Like, this is part of what you do. This is part of our culture. So what I would say to somebody who doesn't have the support of the head coach or the leadership is figure out what you're doing to elevate their program. How are you allowing it to impact their recruiting efforts? How are you doing it to impact the brand of the program and allowing it to have more notoriety, right? Because all of those things speak to your donors, which speak to your season ticket holders. So find out how you're leverage what you're doing to impact those things and use that to say, I need this from you. I can't do this job if I don't have X. And this is why you need me. I think that's a huge, huge, huge piece to being successful and, more importantly, impactful as the director of player development.
Awesome. I want to rewind a little bit. You've spoken about the Bay Area and you had to teach this to me. Can you talk about, when you say specifically this program in the Bay Area, can you talk about what companies are within miles, if not walking distance, to your campus?
Yeah, I mean, I know there's incredible places to live across the country. I know there's, institutions across the country that you could go to where you would have access to these organizations and these companies. But we are literally the capital of innovation, right? Like, the technology platforms that we use on a day-to-day, from our cell phones to our emails, right, are things that were created here in the Bay Area. WhatsApp, the app, WhatsApp was a San Jose State student that created that. Nice. 5 blocks from main campus. We're in the heart of San Jose. We're in downtown San Jose. 5 blocks from main campus is Adobe's headquarters. And next door to Adobe is Zoom. So then 15 minutes from where I live is Apple, Instagram, Facebook, Google, Netflix, PayPal. I mean, I could name 50 companies that you all use, like you use.
I was literally about to say, this is the listener's day. Like, this is literally your day.
Airbnb, right?
Right.
LinkedIn, 45 minutes from here.
Right.
It's in the city, right? So when you talk about opportunity and what that means at San Jose State, like, the opportunity is endless. We're also a minority serving institution. So we have leveraged our diversity within our athletics department, but within our institution as well. And we've built partnerships with companies like Adobe, where I have 7 athletes, 4 of them are football athletes, that have paid summer internships with Adobe. right? Like that's
Right.
unheard of. Like football players getting a summer internship that's paid that works around their schedule is like unheard
Right.
of. Another one, ServiceNow. They have places in San Diego. They have places, I think, even in Austin. They have a place in San Jose. I've leveraged what we're doing to help them elevate their diversity, equity, inclusion efforts from a talent acquisition side of things. So
Nice.
we're placing athletes. I'm like the recruiter. I'm placing
Right.
these athletes in these internships, which will then bridge the gap for like when they graduate and get hired full time. And that is what it means to live in the Bay. Like, let's add that one more level. The other thing that it means to live in the Bay and get a degree from where we are is that within 3 years of graduating, there is absolutely no doubt you will make over $100,000 a year. So, like, we have players 2 years ago that got his first job, entry-level job. Like, he's a great kid, smart, but he's, entry-level position. He's making 70, 80. I think he was making a little bit of commission. He went from his first year in that role to getting a full-time job at Adobe, making 113.
Wow.
I mean, that's life-changing money. Life-changing
Absolutely.
money. And when I ask players, what do you want to do when you graduate? Like, what are your dreams? They'll always, every single one of them, I'm going to go to the league.
Yep.
Why are you going to the league? I want to change my family's life. I want to make money. I want to buy my mom a house. I want to get the car. I want to
Right.
take care of my family. They will all say that. Everyone's
Right.
answer will be that. And what they don't understand is that, number one, the league isn't guaranteed. Number two,
Right.
your body might make a decision before you want it to tell
That's a
you
big one
you
right
belong
there.
playing in the league. And
Right.
thirdly, the money you can make over time at these companies is more money than you would ever make in the league unless
Right.
you're Tom Brady, right?
Right.
And so those are things I'm happy to teach our athletes is like, think about those things when you're making decisions on where you're going to go to school, what you have access to, what support services you have, because those things in the long run will matter. And I mean, I get hit up like after a year of graduation or 6 months after graduation, like, TB, can't find a job, like I need some help. And I'm happy to help, but I'm always like, yeah, if you'd taken advantage of me while you were here, we wouldn't be in this predicament.
Hey, it sounds like these companies in the Bay Area need to cut you a commission check. And it sounds like the university, I don't think anybody's giving a better recruiting pitch than what you just gave right now. I want to talk about something because I had to convince players to do this, and even professionals. You do an incredible job of posting on LinkedIn, and I've known you for the last 3 years. Some people get nervous about posting. I don't want to seem flashy or boasty or conceited, and I know that it's not your personality. Can you talk to people about the importance of posting on LinkedIn and how the work that's done, it's spread? I mean, you're one of the like every time I get on LinkedIn, I'm seeing what you're doing. I'm liking it. And I like help because there's a lot of people who don't want to put stuff on there. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like that's the platform. Use it.
Well, thing is like my network is your network. So I'm really trying to elevate the brand of my program, the brand of my institution, and then the brand of our athletes. So what I'm sharing oftentimes, I'd say like 75% or more of the times is centered around elevating what our student athletes are up to, right? So
Nice.
Today, for example, I'll post about one of our Adobe athletes who's a women's soccer player. If my network sees that and then she likes it and or shares it, then now her network has grown because of
Right.
my network. So what I think you need to remember is it's not always about like kind of the ego kudos to yourself. It's more about if it's not about what you know or who you know, it's about who knows you. If people don't know who you are and the work that you're doing, then it doesn't matter, right? Like
Right.
I think I actually was at the Black Student Athlete Summit, and Dr. Moore had said at some point you will get to a point in your life where you'll never have to apply for a job again. And if you do good work and you have other people rallying around you on your LinkedIn profile, commenting, right? Like people will want to know you. They're going to want to learn about you. So even athletes, like they struggle so much to want to post on LinkedIn, but all day long they'll post on Instagram. I'm like, the people
All
that
day.
will actually give you the NIL deals are the people on LinkedIn, not the people on Instagram.
Right.
So like leveraging LinkedIn is such a huge part of setting yourself up for success whether you want to work in roles like mine and further continue yourself, or you're an athlete, like trying to figure out what you want to do. Like LinkedIn is number one, like the way to get your name out there.
Yeah, I will. There's a young lady, and I'm forgetting her name. She went to Florida. She worked with you.
Selena,
yeah. Yes. And, I saw her graduation, clicked on something, and then she connected. Hey, let's get on a call. TB talks about you. And then here I am, because of that, because you posted, I liked it. She reached out to me. We got a conversation. Somebody else hits me up and says, hey, we're looking for, player development, entry level. I put on a list. I have a list of people that I meet, like entry level, whatever it may be. And that's all because you posted. And like you said, I wouldn't have known her. I wouldn't have known her, what she did for you, the brand, the network, all that if you don't post. And it's just like, I try and tell people like, it's yours, and the people who don't like it, whatever, they're not going to do anything for you anyway. But there's a number of people who it helps expose you, like I know in the is it premium? Premium, it tells you how people see you, like through a feed, through somebody else's, whatever. So, look, if you're listening to this and you're not active on LinkedIn, you're not playing to win. All right. So those were our section of professional and personal questions. Now I'm going to move to some advice, overall advice for those, you've given a lot of advice for those who are in the role, if they listen to it, but if you can give advice for those. Once again, I know you're getting bombarded daily through your messages. If you can give advice for those in the role and then those who are looking to get in the role.
Well, I mean, we just talked about it. If you're not using LinkedIn,
yeah,
you are missing out, right? Like you've got to be able to put yourself out there. I had an athlete say, hey, I want to go to law school. I really would like to intern with like a law firm, which I don't really know how realistic interning at a law firm is for, a student athlete. But I went on LinkedIn and I just said, hey, is anybody out there interested in hiring a summer intern? We have a student athlete working with their schedule. I had 7 people hit me back. Yeah. So I just think breaking down those walls of like being uncertain about posting on LinkedIn, look and see what other people are doing and put yourself out there. Again, you need people to know who you are. That's number one. The second thing is get your foot in the door. Selena just volunteered with me. I don't even know how she found me. To be honest, I have absolutely no idea how she even knew what I was doing. She wanted to meet with me. She came in and met with me and she said, well, let me know if there's anything I can do for you. I'm willing to work for free. This is a passion of mine. I want to work in this space. So I just started giving her like Excel spreadsheets and she would help me set up for events periodically. I mean, she was working for the Raiders at the time, actually. And so just get your foot in the door. Doesn't matter what it is. And every football department is looking for help. You might not get paid for it. But no one asks on a resume whether or not you got paid. There's no list of how much money you made doing that job. That doesn't matter. So recruiting on game day, every single university has recruits on campus on game day, and they need help, right? Recruiting, they need you to help break down academic transcripts. They need help, putting together agendas, official visits. Like recruiting needs tons of help, right? Then game day operations and just operations in general. Obviously in student athlete development spaces, there's always room for help. And then in our event spaces, there's all the logistical operational people, you need help. So just find a way to get your foot in the door. And if a job so happens to come up, it might not be your dream job, but it's the job that gets your foot in the door. Apply for the job, because you see a lot of people transition from academics or compliance or operations into our roles. So I just don't turn off the idea of, what's possible. So LinkedIn, number one, volunteer and just offer, to do extra work. And then thirdly, don't be afraid to apply for a job that may not be the dream job, but it lets people in the industry know who you are, know your worth. And when that door does open, you're more likely to get the job.
Absolutely. So you shared so much advice here on this, episode for us. What's the best advice that you've gotten in your life?
My mom always said growing up, if you don't know what to do, she'd say, if you don't know what to do, don't do anything at all. Meaning stop, take a breath, be patient, and let it figure itself out, right? Don't push something, don't urge something to move forward faster than it's intended to be. If there's any moment of hesitation or uncertainty, that's probably the sign of like, it's not the right thing to do, right? So my mom instilled that in me in a young age, and sometimes easier said than done. But in those moments when you are just not sure where to go, what to do, just take a breath, be patient, and trust and believe that your reputation will get you to where it is that you need to go and want to go. Absolutely.
Thank you. And then practical nugget. What is a practical nugget you have? So like for me, an example, I share this all the time. Example for me was like my first year, I wish I would have scanned everything we did, or at least kept it, because all it does is cyclical. You can do the same thing next year and you think about the solution. So what would be your practical nugget?
My practical nugget is pick one thing and crush it. Don't pick 25 things, like figure out what it is the one thing that's going to make you in the role be elevated, or your opportunity. Maybe it's that you're volunteering and you want people to know your worth. Like find the one thing that could make them better, pick it and crush it. Right. There's a lot of stuff you can do in this space, and it can get very overwhelming. I mean, I have this whiteboard over here behind me. You can't really see it. And it is like my brain. But what I did when I first got this job was we had been volunteering in the community. Like Coach Brennan, prior to him hiring me, he just had our players like working with little kids at elementary schools playing recess. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take that and I'm going to run with it. And 6 months later, we had a mentoring program. And that mentoring program is still happening to this day. And we just now got a female mentoring program, which led to some other opportunities. So the reality is like, don't be overwhelmed by too much. Pick one thing and knock it out of the park.
I love that. So you're taking care and you're servicing over 400 student athletes. What do you do to take, and also your 2 kids, your family, how do you take care of yourself?
Well, Ed, so little background on me too. I am married to the chief of staff for our head football coach. So my life literally is ball. But I just got back from a girls' weekend.
Nice.
And I would say that those types of moments, taking time for myself to spend time with my friends, not feeling guilty about leaving my kids with my husband for a couple of days, or this past weekend was fall camp, this past weekend was camp for us. High school kids coming in and evaluation and whatnot. It was a massive camp, by the way. We had like UCLA here, University of Arizona. It was massive. So I flew my mom in from Idaho, and she helped watch the kids, and so I could take this girls' weekend. And it's things like that that help revitalize me and like give me a little extra life. And I think like what I'm lucky of is like I have a very supportive husband, I have a very supportive family, and they don't, it's easy to feel guilty to do those kinds of things, right? And I think it's important that I do those things because I always feel so much better when I come back. But I also did want to say that there's other things on the day-to-day, like sleeping is massive for me. I need to sleep. If it's on the weekend, on a Sunday, and I have time, like taking a nap is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Right now, at least, because both my kids nap. So I'm like, yes, I'm sleeping. But even on the daily, whether it's exercising, podcasting, or reading, whenever I get those things out of my life, because I get too busy and I make excuses or whatever it is, I never feel like I'm the best version of myself. Right. Like a couple weeks ago, I was walking to work. I live in downtown San Jose. It's about a mile walk from work, mile and a quarter. And I've been listening to podcasts, and including this one. And
I appreciate it.
Find myself like I'm kind of just like revitalized, re-energized, like I'm inspired. And I like who I am better mentally than when I'm not doing those things. So I think it's a variety of stuff. And I know working in this role, it's really, 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 really easy, especially when you have 2 kids, to put yourself last. And that's something it's a daily battle for me. I have to work on it all the time.
Absolutely. Well, TB, I appreciate you so much for being on here. You dropped so many gems. Well, But you did not know about rapid fire questions. Here we go. Oh, you did not know. All right. So what are you reading right now?
The Power of Moments.
Nice. Okay. What daily discipline are you working on?
Getting up before 6 a.m.
Okay. Nice. Someone gives you $25 for lunch. Where are you going to eat in San Jose?
Oh gosh. It's like La Deliciosa Tanita. It's a Mexican food truck and it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Okay,
on a corner
awesome.
of a street. It doesn't even have a building. It's like on the corner
Yes.
of a parking lot.
Let's go. All right. Someone gives you $125 for dinner. Where are you eating in San Jose? Yeah. Here we go.
Oh boy. Water Tower Cafe in Campbell.
Nice. Okay. Water Tower Cafe. I like that. All right. If you could join a band or music group, past or present, who would it be?
This is so good.
Yeah.
All right, band or music group that I could join, past or present. I mean, if you want me to go with my default, it is Digital Underground because
Nice.
my go-to karaoke song is the Humpty Dance.
Nice. That is nice.
I love hip hop. I grew up with an older brother that just like would blast like
Right.
Dr. Dre and all
Right.
that, and so I would be like the one to steal his CD packets and like learn the lyrics. My mom wasn't
Yes.
overly happy about it, but like 90s hip hop is my favorite music to kind of like
Nice.
get recharged with.
Let's go. Digital Underground.
Yeah.
Okay. Who would you want to co-star in a movie with? Action and comedy.
Oh, like 1000% Justin Timberlake, obviously.
Okay. There we go. Nice. And then what sport do you wish you played growing up?
Oh my gosh, I just had this conversation today. I used to say softball because I think how the pitcher pitches the ball is like unreal. Like it's so impressive. But moving to California, I've learned a lot more about sports that I didn't exist in Idaho, like field hockey and water polo that didn't exist in Idaho. 1000% I would play water polo. I feel like I could. Those girls are nasty. Like it is.
Yes.
It is a serious sport out here, and it is so impressive.
Nice. Well, last thing is, how can we follow you? How can we support what you're doing? If you could talk about, your handles, Beyond Sparta, where we could find you on social.
Well, the crazy thing is I manage 7 social media accounts, and that does not include my personal. So Twitter, I am Tobruk Blaine _TB. On Twitter, my personal, or sorry, not Twitter. Did I say Instagram? Sorry, I meant Twitter.
You said
Twitter
Okay.
is Tobruk Blaine _TB. Instagram is Tobruk Lee, Leigh, which is my middle name. I'm on LinkedIn heavily, as we mentioned before. I'm on LinkedIn, just Tobruk Blaine. My socials for San Jose State stuff on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok is at San Jose State BF for Beyond Football. I also manage at San Jose State BYS for Beyond Sparta.
awesome.
And
Awesome.
there's also a LinkedIn for San Jose State Spartans football. So prior to me taking over in this role, we had a LinkedIn account. So on that account, I share a lot of business professional stuff that the athletes are doing. Like right now, we have a massive number of internships. I'll give a shout out.
Let's go. Let's go.
On LinkedIn too.
Let's go. Well, appreciate you being on here once again. So excited to have you on. Continue crushing it. And I just thank you for taking the time, during this day for us and our listeners. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ed. Anytime.
Awesome.